Welcome, guys, to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have John Klepper with us. John is a serial entrepreneur. He's the CEO and founder at PIPRA, all in caps. He's a board member, strategist, innovator, speaker, learner. It's almost 9 his time in Zurich, Switzerland. It's 2 here in Oaxaca, Mexico, and we're gonna discuss about his background. I saw some neuroscience in there. He's been a member of various accelerators, so very cool guy. This podcast is brought to you by podpire.com. That is my podcasting agency. If you want to start a podcast, be invited to podcast and monetize podcasting, you can go to podpire.com. I deployed an ebook not so long ago called Start Your AI Podcast in 2025. That one is free. And I also have a masterclass if you want to follow that masterclass for $500 early bird prices. You can go to my website, podpire.com. John, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Thanks, Charles. I appreciate being invited. It's great to be on this podcast. So I'm originally half French, half American, born in Paris, the American side from Los Angeles. I grew up kind of bounced around the world, different parts of Europe, North Africa, the States, and then so I started my career in art and film, and then I kind of fell into entrepreneurship early on, and kind of fell in love with it, and started a company, and then exited and left to go back to Europe, and then started another company there, and then just kind of kept going with it. So I've had now four companies, and PIPRA is my latest and greatest.
And what did you find great about entrepreneurship? Because most find it torturous to not know how much cash flow you're gonna bring in, to be constantly stressed of making it or not. Why was it part of your identity early on?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely both sides for sure, right? Anybody who tells you it's easy a journey is probably lying. I think what I love about it is that you're in control of your own destiny. You decide, like, if you're going to be successful or not. You decide what you want to work on and what you don't. You decide who you want to work with and who you don't. And that's a luxury that a lot of people don't have. But it does come at a cost. And that cost is, as you just said, right? You have a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of uncertainty. You don't have that steady, knowing there's a paycheck coming in, every month because you're in some large corp or whatever. So, having said that, I know a lot of people who went the steady route and ended up, getting fired with no notice, and, their company downsized, and suddenly, and where they gave every part of themselves to that company, in a split second, their company's like, thank you, we don't have a need for you anymore. So I like to be part of something which I feel like is impactful, with people who care, who are passionate, who want to make a difference in the world, and value their journey as well as mine.
Do you feel that your international background contributed to you getting out of your comfort zone as an entrepreneur? And do you have some kind of chip on your shoulder even up to this day?
Chip on my shoulder because of having traveled around and moved around a lot, or?
No, two unrelated but somewhat related questions.
Okay. I think that traveling around from a young age has its pluses and minuses as well. I think, you grow up fast. You learn how to take care of yourself. You learn that, there's, even though things might look very difficult or confusing, that there's usually a way, there's a solution, there's a path forward. But at the same time, you gain a lot. You gain knowing, different cultures. You learn different ways of communication. You learn how to get along with all different kinds of people. You learn how to make friends and also how to move on, and to start over. So there's a lot of value that comes in that too. Do I have a chip on my shoulder? um, I don't think of myself as somebody that carries a chip on their shoulder, but it's an interesting question where that came from.
Yeah, where does your creativity stems from? I mean, the chip on my shoulder is not the main source of my creativity, of my drive. There's a biochemical source to it, testosterone for sure, all the supplements that I take, and I just love moonshotting. I guess, do
Yeah.
you need to even have a justification for that? Probably not. But yeah, where does all that creative energy stems from in the John case? Because you have so much startups that you started.
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely get, I don't know if I would term it a chip on my shoulder, but trying to find a source of letting go of confusion or frustration or uncertainty, right? So when you grow up in a divorced family from a young age, and you have to constantly say goodbye to friends and schools and move to somewhere else, right? That and I was blessed in many ways with my childhood, but it was also incredibly difficult in many ways, like so many people. And I think that for me, creativity and entrepreneurship, perhaps in a way, was an outlet. It was a way for me to find myself and to maybe come to terms with some of those things that were confusing me. A lot of the greatest artists in the world have had very difficult upbringings or have had to deal with a lot, right? And they chose art as their pathway. So for me, from a young age, art was my path. Art was my release, let's say, right? And
Right.
and yeah, so maybe that answers a little bit of that.
Yeah, mine was video games. I think really got like introverted during my period of life and got like the best player at various video games during my adolescence. And I've got some lessons from that. I think like some of the best gamers out there turn business people. I think they're the most savage business people nowadays, in my opinion, because they can master technology and all of that. I want to come back to one comment that you made about PIPRA. You said that it's one of your most interesting and promising business. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, let me touch on PIPRA in a second, because I just wanted to mention one thing that sort of I didn't really know, but speaking of gaming, I was a gamer too at a young age. I was also very dyslexic when I was young, right? And I didn't know that I was dyslexic until I was around 12, 13, and I found out just not too long ago, actually, that a lot of very successful CEOs and entrepreneurs are dyslexic, right? And I was sitting on a rooftop in Palo Alto with some investors, and one of them told me he was dyslexic, and I was like, oh yeah, I was dyslexic too, right? And he goes, yeah, man, that's our superpower. And so I asked him, like, what do you mean by that? And this is how it ties into the gaming thing, I think, for me in a way. So for us dyslexics, you grow up with more challenges in some ways, right, than some people in terms of reading and writing, right? And what you learn is that you have to just work harder, and you have to figure out ways to get to the end result, right? And it maybe gives you some of that grit that you need to be an entrepreneur, right? And to never give up. And in gaming, there's a similar kind of thing that you learn often, is that you never give up. There's always a solution, right? You can try 10, 20, 100 times. Eventually you will find the solution, right? And often that solution will come by working with others together, right? In a community, with your team, or whatever it is, to find the solution, right? So in gaming, I also found some ties and some similarities to life and some lessons. But back to PIPRA, or can you relate to what I just said at all?
Yes. Yes, yeah, quick comment on that. Yeah, obsession with gaming. Like, my mom gave me two things that became a gift: OCD and ADHD. And by the way, OCD, I think it's pretty obvious, right? In the business world, if you're obsessed about something, you work hard towards it, you'll get it. ADHD, not so obvious for most, but I call it like advanced HD vision. Well, it's not the best term for that, but the mean of the goal here is to say that there is some superpower behind ADHD. For example, I can see various components of the business and the landscape and where it's going. If I combine that to OCD or meditation and sports, I can get focused on some of these areas. So I can see like the full circle, which is, I think, a moat in this AI age.
Mhm.
Now, dyslexia, I couldn't see how dyslexia could be functional, could have benefits, but you just named one. And a second one that I'm not sure I want to ask you about is, do you feel that if you see things just like differently and probably the contrary of something, do you feel that this vision of things and this worldview or these lens that you have on, do you feel this can have an advantage in the entrepreneurial world? Let's say that you see something that most people don't.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether that comes from, the different challenges, possibly, because, the entrepreneurial mind is, I can always tell when I'm talking to an entrepreneur because they're maybe not in the first minute or two, but after a while, you can see that they're coming at things from different angles. They're always looking for a better way, a
Yeah,
better answer, a better solution. Why don't these guys do this? This would save them so much time, right? Constantly thinking about other paths to the end, or to get somewhere faster, better, cheaper, that'll be more useful for people. So that mindset is a must have between good entrepreneurs and not so good entrepreneurs. So I,
right.
I do think we look a little bit differently through a different lens, um, than maybe the average.
Right. Now, PIPRA, tell me about the business model, how you acquire clients. Apparently, you're raising another round, or I'm guessing on that. So tell us about the business here and why you're so bullish on it.
So yeah, so PIPRA is a company based in Zurich, Switzerland. We work in neurocognitive diseases. We use machine learning algorithms to predict, prevent, and diagnose neurocognitive diseases. We're starting with a specific disease area called delirium, which is similar to dementia, but much more acute, usually triggered by an accident or a hospital visit, a surgery, for example, right? 1 minute you're fine, the next minute you're confused, disoriented, you memory loss, you don't know who your kids are or your wife. It can be, many describe it as the most terrifying experience of their life. And it has long-term consequences. It increases risk of nursing home admission 600%, increases the risk of Alzheimer's disease 1,400%. And this is not some small niche problem. This is a massive global disease, which is 60% more expensive to healthcare than diabetes in the United States. It affects nearly 1 in 4 patients over 60. So imagine your mom or your grandmother or yourself, it usually affects people at an older age going into a hospital for surgery, knowing there's a 1 in 4 chance of coming out with cognitive complications when all you wanted was a hip surgery or a little more mobility in your knee. So there's a lot of things that people don't realize, that can be very, very scary. So what we're trying to do is make sure that that doesn't happen and people leave the hospital better than when they arrive. My mom had delirium. She had a terrifying experience, for several days in hospital. She thought the staff were trying to kill her. She refuses to go near a hospital. Luckily, she recovered, but she will not go near a hospital. So this is what motivates me and my team. I have an incredible team of doctors and scientists and biostatisticians, and we're all super passionate about trying to save and improve lives.
Right. And yeah, I can sort of relate to that because not so long I was taking a syrup, and I began having a couple of panic attacks in the night. It's just like being a shell of yourself. You remember who you are, but I wouldn't have related to what you just said before that. I have one friend's dad that has that, and my brain keeps saying like dementia, but it's delirium, right? Do we know the sources of delirium? And yeah, precisely what is PIPRA doing to help progress on that? And I heard that you were using some AI in some spaces.
So the trigger can be, as I said, like a fall or an infection or a surgery, or something that usually takes you to a hospital, or happens while you're in hospital. Usually there's some underlying pathology. There's maybe some kind of mild cognitive impairment or something that could be heading towards dementia, and this surgery, for example, will trigger a rapid increase and a rapid decline.
But is it bacteria? Is it the medicine that they give you? Like, what is it exactly?
Yeah, so it can be a few different things, and it can be a combination of different things, right? And because it's so multifaceted, it'll affect different people differently, right? But in the case of a surgery, for example, which is what we call post-operative delirium, because after surgery you come out of it and then you're very different. Usually it's because of the inflammation. So if you have a large surgery, you have a lot of inflammation at the site of the surgery. Some of that becomes systemic and travels through your body, crossing the blood-brain barrier, becoming neuroinflammatory, right? So in the case of a surgery, that's usually because of inflammation.
Right. And PIPRA itself, like, how do you get your actual customers? What's your growth strategy for 2025? Are you still raising some money? Where do you want to take it?
Yep. So we have this surgical risk assessment, which runs behind an electronic health record on admission to the hospital. It helps stratify patients into risk groups, allowing for targeted prevention on high-risk patients, because it's very preventable if you know who to treat. But once you have it, there's not much you can do about it. And where we are right now is we have a certified solution as a medical device. We are launching it in hospital. We have relationships with Mayo Clinic in the States, with Stanford Medical in the States, with several hospitals in Europe and Switzerland and in the Benelux region. And we're currently raising a pre-A round. We have about 60% of the round is already filled, 40% remaining. And it's exciting. For 2025, we want to essentially use these funds to scale, to do more sales and marketing, particularly in the United States, but also with a focus in some new geographies like Spain and Germany. It's an amazing journey, because every day we get to wake up and go to work knowing that we're making a difference in people's lives.
Right. And it's mostly a software. Do you actually have a device as well that you're thinking of building it? And if so, why so, or why not?
Currently, it's purely software. It's a SaaS business. It's machine learning algorithms. We will be adding a hardware component. So this will allow us to do automated real-time diagnosis of delirium. And this will be a combination of hardware and software. So patient monitoring while in hospital.
Do you think you'll branch out eventually into dementia and Alzheimer's? Are these other niches you'd like to tackle as well eventually?
Yeah, that's a very, very astute question. We are definitely looking at, as I mentioned, at different types of neurocognitive diseases. We're starting in delirium, but dementia is the natural next progression for us because of the strong correlation between delirium and dementia. As I mentioned, I threw a bunch of numbers out at the beginning, but If you have delirium, your chances of having dementia go up 1,400%, right? So you're almost guaranteed to have dementia within a year.
And is Big Pharma doing something about that? Can a pill somewhat diminish that? Are there like ongoing trials?
So there's very little in the field for delirium that we know of. Of course, there's been a huge amount of drug discovery efforts with dementia, and an incredible amount of failures, unfortunately. So part of the reason for that is because delirium, like dementia, is very multifaceted, right? There's no one magic pill for everyone. So we need to understand these neurocognitive diseases better in order to be able to have precision medicine, to be able to target the individual type of delirium or dementia.
Right. With AI, what would be the future of understanding and potentially curing brain diseases? Is it about mapping out the brain in this digital realm and leading in vitro experiments? What do you see in the neuroscience realm in the next 5 to 10 years when it comes to the AI age, that we're getting into right now?
I mean, AI is already having a massive impact in the healthcare setting, right? We saw, of course, the telemedicine in COVID times explode. We saw, because of that, or largely because of that, an adoption by a lot of healthcare settings, hospitals and whatnot, of new AI technologies, and that's just going to continue to accelerate. In radiology, we see a lot of AI doing some amazing things at diagnosing diseases that are very difficult to see, especially eye diseases. And in neurocognitive space, I think solutions like ours that are helping, they're called clinical decision support software. They're helping clinicians make better informed, objective decisions based on complex algorithms, or sometimes simple algorithms, that look at large data sets and find patterns between the studies, for example, that are out there and the individual patient that's in front of you. And I hope that we're going to be able to learn more and more, largely with the help of AI, about the different mechanisms that are happening in the brain. As I said, most neurocognitive diseases are extremely multifactorial and complex. And as we start to look at this in more detail and understand and map the brain from a genetic perspective as well, from a genomic perspective, we're going to start to understand much more about these diseases and hopefully be able to cure them.
Last question. How are you, John, taking care of your brain nowadays? What does a day in your life look like, and what habits are you nurturing to perform better as a human and a CEO?
I love that question. I do quite a lot of things. I started about 9 years ago with a habit tracker, and I use it every day, and I do things like intermittent fasting. I've been doing that religiously for 9 years. I try to exercise a little bit every day. It's not about doing a huge workout, once or twice a week. It's about a little bit every day and just being consistent, right? Obviously eating healthy, because your body is like an engine, right? What you put in it is what you get out of it, right? So you are what you eat. Everybody knows that, but living it is a different matter. So I really try to put healthy, good, organic food in and try to take care of that. Try to sleep as much as I can, because that's also a huge risk factor for cognitive complications. Like yourself, I take supplements every day, and also, meditation, try to reduce stress. These are all contributors to reducing healthy aging, right? If you're stressed, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not eating right, if all these things just contribute to a more complex, more disease-prone life, and the opposite. So I've been doing that now for about 9 years, pretty steadily.
John, thank you for showing up today, adding value with us. I'll let you go to sleep now. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
So the website is PIPRA.ch, PIPRA, PIPRA.ch. And people can find me on LinkedIn, those are the main places, I think, to find me.
That was John Klepper and